Pack your things, this house belongs to the family now, and you can visit on weekends if you schedule it properly, my mother-in-law Evelyn announced 3 days after we'd buried Marcus, her voice carrying the same imperious tone she used throughout our 8-year marriage to remind me I never truly belong. My son built this life, and it should pass to his blood relatives, not someone who simply married into it. Her daughter Portia was already wandering through the house, running her fingers along furniture, peering into closets, claiming territories she coveted for years, while I stood in my own living room being told to surrender everything I built alongside the man I loved. What Evelyn didn't know, what Marcus had deliberately kept secret from his family, was that the safe behind our bedroom mirror contained documents that would shatter every assumption she just made. The funeral had been 3 days of controlled chaos. Evelyn had swept in from Charlotte the moment she'd received news of the accident, taking charge of arrangements as if I were an incompetent stranger rather than Marcus's wife of 8 years. She'd chosen the flowers, approved the casket, vetted the guest list, all while I sat in shock, still processing the phone call that had ended my world. Marcus had been killed by a drunk driver on his way home from a business meeting. 42 years old, healthy, successful, beloved, gone in an instant because someone decided to drive after consuming a bottle of wine. The grief was suffocating. But beneath it, something else had started to emerge, a recognition that Marcus's death had freed his family to say things they'd been restraining for years. You know, you were never really what he needed, Evelyn had murmured at the reception after the funeral, her voice low enough that only I could hear. Marcus deserved someone from his own background. Someone who understood his world. I was from a working-class family in rural Ohio. I'd put myself through college, built a career in healthcare administration, and met Marcus at a charity gala where I'd been coordinating logistics. To Evelyn, I would always be the help who'd gotten above her station. Mother loved Marcus so much, Portia had added, as if her mother's cruelty required explanation. We all just want to make sure his legacy is honored properly. Honored properly meant erasing me from it entirely. The conversation about the house happened on a Monday afternoon. Evelyn had asked to discuss Marcus's affairs, summoning me to the living room like a servant being called to account. Portia sat beside her, already wearing a diamond bracelet I recognized from Marcus's grandmother's collection, jewelry she apparently helped herself to while I was occupied with funeral arrangements. The house, the investments, the business interests, these are Hartley family assets, Evelyn explained, her tone suggesting she was being generous by informing me at all. Marcus would want them to remain with his blood relatives. I'm his wife. You were his wife. For 8 years. His connection to this family spans 42 years. I think we know better than you what he would have wanted. Have you seen his will? Evelyn waved dismissively. Wills can be contested. Especially when there are questions of undue influence. A young woman convincing an older, wealthy man to leave her everything, courts see through that sort of thing. I was 38 years old, 4 years younger than Marcus. Hardly a gold-digging ingenue. The house is in my name, I said quietly. Marcus transferred it to me 2 years ago. Under what circumstances? Were you threatening divorce? Manipulating him? Evelyn leaned forward. We have excellent attorneys. If there's any evidence you coerced my son, we'll find it. There's no evidence because there was no coercion. Marcus loved me. He wanted to protect me. From what? From exactly this. Marcus had known his family well. He spent our entire marriage managing the tension between his love for me and his family's refusal to accept our relationship. He defended me at holiday gatherings, deflected his mother's criticisms, tried to build bridges that his family kept burning. 6 months before his death, he'd sat me down for a serious conversation. If something happens to me, they'll come for everything, he'd said. My mother has never accepted you. Portia sees you as competition. They'll try to take the house, the money, the business, anything they can claim. You're being paranoid. I'm being realistic. I've watched my mother cut people out of our family for decades. She's ruthless when she believes she's protecting what's hers. He'd taken my hands. I want to make sure you're protected. Completely protected. Beyond any possibility of their interference. Over the following months, Marcus had restructured everything. The house had been transferred to my name. Life insurance policies had been updated with me as sole beneficiary. Business interests had been placed in trusts with me as trustee. And most importantly, he documented every decision extensively, video recordings, written statements, witnesses, creating an unassailable record of his intentions. If they try to claim you manipulated me, this will prove otherwise, he'd explained. Everything is in the safe behind the mirror. The combination is our anniversary. If I'm gone and they come for you, open it. Everything you need is there. I'd thought he was being excessive. Now I understood he'd been prescient. Marcus left instructions, I said, standing from the couch. Would you like to hear them? Evelyn looked surprised by my composure. She'd expected tears, capitulation, the reaction of a woman who understood her place in the hierarchy and accepted defeat gracefully. What instructions? Wait here. I walked to the master bedroom, our bedroom, the room where Marcus and I had shared 8 years of love and partnership, and moved the mirror that hid the wall safe. The combination was 091416, September 14, 2016. Our wedding day. Inside, I found exactly what Marcus had promised: folders of documents, a flash drive, and an envelope with my name on it in his handwriting. I took everything to the living room, where Evelyn and Portia waited with growing uncertainty. What is all that? Portia demanded. Marcus's instructions. I set the materials on the coffee table. He anticipated this moment. He knew you'd try to take everything. That's absurd. Let me read you something. I opened the envelope and unfolded the letter inside. My dearest Angela, if you're reading this, then I'm gone and my family is already circling. I'm sorry I'm not there to protect you in person, but I'm doing everything I can to protect you from here. Everything is documented. The house is yours, transferred legally, with full records of my intention to provide for my wife. The insurance policies are yours, updated specifically to ensure your security. The business interests are held in trusts that you control, structured by the best attorneys I could find to make them challenge-proof. My mother will tell you this isn't what I wanted. She'll claim you manipulated me, that I wasn't in my right mind, that blood family should come first. I want you to know, clearly and without ambiguity, you are my family. You are who I chose. You are who I loved more completely than I ever loved anyone. The flash drive contains video statements I recorded with my attorney present. In them, I explain every decision I made and why. I name my mother and sister specifically, describing their history of hostility toward you and my concern that they would try to invalidate my wishes after my death. I also included documentation of things they'd prefer stayed buried. Use whatever you need. Protect yourself. And know that wherever I am, I'm proud to have been your husband. All my love, forever, Marcus. The room was silent when I finished reading. He recorded videos? Evelyn asked, her voice suddenly less certain. With his attorney present. Explaining exactly why he structured his estate to exclude you. Exclude us? He left you each a symbolic bequest, $10,000. The rest goes to me, to charities he cared about, and to a trust for any future children we might have had. I met her eyes. He also documented things you'd apparently prefer to keep private. Evelyn went pale. The documentation Marcus had referenced was extensive. Over the years, he'd kept records of his family's financial misdeeds, things they'd assumed were buried, forgotten, protected by family loyalty. His mother had been systematically embezzling from the family charitable foundation for over a decade, redirecting funds meant for educational scholarships to cover personal expenses. The documentation included bank records, correspondence, and a detailed timeline of misappropriation. His sister Portia had been involved in a Medicare fraud scheme through her medical practice, overbilling, phantom services, falsified records. Marcus had discovered it 3 years ago and confronted her privately, demanding she stop and make restitution. She'd done neither. He wouldn't have documented this, Evelyn whispered, staring at the folders. He was family. He would never. He documented everything because he knew you'd never change. He told me that confronting you directly would just make you better at hiding things. I spread the papers across the table. He kept these as insurance. Protection for me if something happened to him. This is blackmail. No, this is evidence. Evidence he collected because he loved me enough to ensure I'd never be at your mercy. I gathered the papers back into their folders. You have a choice. Walk away quietly, accept the bequests he left you, and never bother me again. Or fight me in court, where all of this becomes public record. You wouldn't dare. I have nothing to lose. Marcus is gone. My life as I knew it is over. If you force me to fight, I'll fight with everything he gave me. I looked at Portia, who was gripping her stolen bracelet like a lifeline. Including the records about your medical practice. I'm sure the licensing board would find them interesting. The next hour was a masterclass in the collapse of bravado. Evelyn made threats, lawsuits, investigations, accusations of elder abuse, despite Marcus being 42 and perfectly competent. Portia cried, claimed she hadn't known about the billing issues at her practice, insisted she was a victim of overzealous staff. None of it mattered. Marcus had anticipated every argument, every excuse, every attempt to rewrite history. His video statements were devastating, calm, lucid, detailed explanations of exactly why he was structuring his estate to protect his wife and limit his family's access. My mother has never accepted my marriage, Marcus said in one recording, looking directly at the camera. She spent 8 years treating Angela as an intruder in our family. She's made comments at every holiday, undermined every celebration, refused to acknowledge our anniversary or our home. I love my mother, but I love my wife more. Angela is my priority. Angela is my family. And I will not allow my death to become an opportunity for my mother to finally push her out. Watching the video was excruciating. Marcus's voice, his face, his expressions, all preserved in digital form while his physical presence was gone forever. But the pain was tempered by gratitude. He'd known. He'd prepared. He'd loved me enough to fight for me even from beyond the grave. The will is ironclad, my attorney confirmed when I called her later that evening. Marcus worked with us for months to ensure there were no vulnerabilities. The video statements, the witnesses, the documentation of family hostility, any court would uphold his intentions. And the evidence about his mother and sister? Potentially criminal. If you want to pursue it, we can refer it to appropriate authorities. If you want to keep it as leverage, that's your choice. I don't want to destroy them. I just want them to leave me alone. Then make that clear. Offer a settlement, they stop all legal challenges, acknowledge the will publicly, and maintain distance. In exchange, the documentation stays sealed. The settlement meeting happened a week later. Evelyn arrived with attorneys, 3 of them, expensive suits, aggressive postures. They'd clearly prepared for a fight. They weren't prepared for the fight Marcus had already won. My attorney walked them through the evidence methodically, the video statements, the transfer documents, the witnesses who testified to Marcus's mental competence and clear intentions. Then she moved to the additional materials, the documentation of charitable foundation fraud, the Medicare billing irregularities, the paper trail that led directly to prison terms if pursued. My client is offering a resolution, she concluded. The Hartley family accepts the will as written. They make no legal challenges, issue no public statements questioning Mrs. Hartley's character or her right to the estate. They maintain respectful distance, with any future contact initiated only by mutual agreement. And in exchange? The supplementary documentation remains sealed. No referrals to law enforcement. No tips to licensing boards. The Hartley family's reputation stays intact. Evelyn's attorneys conferred in urgent whispers. I watched my mother-in-law's face, the rage, the humiliation, the gradual acceptance of defeat. This is extortion, she finally said. This is compromise. Your son gave me the tools to destroy you. I'm choosing not to use them. That's grace, Mrs. Hartley. You might try expressing gratitude instead of outrage. Gratitude? For stealing my son's legacy? Your son gave me his legacy freely. He documented every decision to ensure you couldn't take it from me. He spent the last months of his life protecting me from exactly the behavior you exhibited since his death. I leaned forward. Marcus knew you, Evelyn. He loved you, but he knew you. And he chose me anyway. That's what's really bothering you, isn't it? Not the money, not the house. The fact that he chose me over you. She didn't respond. But something in her expression shifted, recognition, maybe, of a truth she'd been avoiding. We'll accept the terms, her lead attorney said quietly. Make it official. In writing. By end of business tomorrow. The settlement was signed within 48 hours. Evelyn and Portia received their symbolic bequests and agreed to maintain distance. The documentation remained sealed, not destroyed, but locked away in case they ever violated the agreement. The house, the investments, the business interests, everything Marcus had worked to protect, remained mine. The victory felt hollow. Marcus was still gone. No amount of legal triumph could fill the void he'd left. I'd won the battle but lost the war against mortality, against drunk drivers, against a universe that would take a good man at 42 and leave his family fighting over his remains. I kept the letter he'd written. I watched his video statements sometimes, late at night, when the house felt too empty and the silence too loud. Hearing his voice, seeing his face, it was painful and precious at once. I love you, he said at the end of one recording, looking into the camera like he could see me watching years in the future. Whatever happens, remember that. I loved you completely. I protected you with everything I had. And I would choose you again, without hesitation, every time. A year after the settlement, I received an unexpected message. It was from Portia, not threatening, not accusatory, just a brief request to meet. Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a neutral location, a cafe neither of us frequented. Portia looked different, thinner, older, less polished than the woman who'd wandered through my house claiming bedrooms. I wanted to apologize, she said. For that day. For what Mother and I tried to do. Why now? I've been in therapy. Working through some things. Including my family dynamics and how I let Mother's attitudes become my own. She paused. Marcus was the only one who ever stood up to her. I always admired that, even when I was too afraid to follow his example. What do you want, Portia? Nothing. I know I have no right to ask for anything. I just wanted you to know that I understand now why Marcus protected you so completely. He saw how we treated you, and he made sure we couldn't do it forever. She looked down. He was a better person than any of us. I wish I'd told him that while he was alive. So do I. Is there any chance, not now, but someday, that we could have some kind of relationship? I'm not asking to be friends. But Marcus was my brother. You were his wife. That means something. I considered the question carefully. Maybe someday. But not yet. The wound is still too fresh, and your mother's words still echo in my head. I stood to leave. If you're serious about changing, keep working on it. Show me over time. Don't just tell me. I understand. One more thing, Portia. The documentation about your practice, I never intended to use it, but Marcus collected it because he was worried about you. He thought you'd gotten in over your head and couldn't see a way out. I paused. If you're really working on yourself, maybe address that too. Before someone else discovers it. 2 years have passed since Marcus's death. I still live in our house, the one he transferred to me not out of manipulation but out of love. I still manage the business interests he left in my care, guided by the principles he'd established. I still visit his grave on our anniversary, our birthdays, ordinary Tuesdays when I miss him too much to stay away. Evelyn has maintained her distance, as agreed. We've exchanged perhaps 3 sentences in 2 years, all at unavoidable family events where mutual acquaintances made interaction necessary. The hostility has faded into something more like exhaustion. She's too tired to hate me, and I'm too tired to care. Portia has been true to her word about working on herself. We're not friends, but we're not enemies either. She cleaned up her medical practice, made whatever restitutions were necessary, and has apparently found some peace in the process. And me? I found something like peace too. Not happiness, that feels too far away still, but stability. Purpose. The knowledge that Marcus's love didn't end with his death. It continues in the protections he built, the instructions he left, the safe behind the mirror that held everything I needed to fight for my place in the world. This is our son's house now, Evelyn had said. You can visit on weekends. She didn't know what he left me. She didn't know how completely he'd planned for this moment. She didn't know that her son's final gift wasn't just money or property or legal documents. It was the certainty that I was loved. That I was chosen. That I belonged. No one can take that away. Not even death.